Hey fellas, welcome to this exclusive panel discussion of Men's Power Connect with Myron, Osei, and Carlos. Three men on a mission to equip, engage, and empower men in life and leadership. In this conversation, your iron sharpening iron brothers gathered with the local Toastmasters in the Snellville, Georgia region. They shared the heart behind their podcast, the challenges men face today, and why now, more than ever, men need real authenticity, real faith, and real leadership. Let's dive in.
I am so excited to introduce our esteemed panelists tonight. I've been working with these gentlemen for well over a year, and I call them my iron sharpening iron brothers. We'll learn more about them, but I want you guys to give them a warm round of applause. One, Mr. Osei Harvey. And the second guest, Mr. Myron Head. So y'all ready to learn a little bit more about the Men's Power Connect? And these guys that are on stage here, can you all hear me okay on Zoom? Wonderful. This is awesome. So you're saying, well, why do we have mics tonight? Because what we want to do is actually post this to the YouTube channel that we have called Men's Power Connect. So that's why we are doing this with microphones tonight. So I would love to start out by you all introducing yourselves and tell us why is the Men's Power Connect so important to you? And I'll start with you, Myron.
You're always doing that. Yeah. All right. Good evening to everyone. So my name again is Myron Head. Just a joy to be a part of Men's Power Connect with these two gentlemen. And so Carlos had approached us about this maybe a little bit about a year ago, just to really it's I think the way we have termed it when we've had discussions, we are essentially allowing ourselves to share a lot of the conversations that we have about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a father, what it means to be a husband. And these conversations have been just so rich for us over the years, and we've learned so much from them, so much from each other. And so we said, hey, let's take this platform and share it with other men, because there's other men, there are other fathers out there who may not have had some of the experiences that we had from our dads or even from one another that I'm sure they can glean from. So that's really what we looked at as far as how we wanted to get started with this.
Great. Thanks, Myron. Osei.
Yes, again, my name is Osei Harvey. Thank you again for the opportunity, Carlos, to be able to be on this platform. And I think being a part of Men's Power Connect for me is so important because it's important to other men. I have been in the mental health field for almost about 25 years now, and I've worked with, as you can imagine, a number of people with different diagnoses, and the like. But unfortunately, there's been a shortage of men that I would see within my office. It would be mostly women, but men, for reasons, as we know, are more reluctant to coming in and receiving the help that they need, especially addressing maybe some deep-seated issues. And so having this platform, I think, has been tremendous because it gives us an opportunity to reach men, not necessarily in an office or virtually, but being able to take what we've put together and share it with other men, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube or just out in the community, and say, hey, we experience issues and challenges just like you. This is a part of life. What are some things that you're struggling with? What are some challenges that you feel like have been a burden that's causing you maybe some turbulence or maybe some resistance to being the best version of yourself? And I think having this platform has definitely allowed us to be able to open that safe space for a lot of men, and it's been gratifying. So I would say that's the reason why.
The reason why you do that work.
Absolutely.
I love it. I want to get a little bit personal too then. So Myron, tell me how long you've been married and how many kids you have
Absolutely. So I've been married for 15 years. It'll be in June. Really excited about that. And I have two beautiful children, a 13-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. She is my heart. And it's been a great journey.
And the role that you actually play in the Men's Power Connect.
The role that I play in the Men's Power Connect, so for the most part, when it comes to the content that we're looking to develop or whatever topics that we're looking to have, we'll have some discussions around, hey, what subject do we want to touch on? What topic do we want to touch on? And then from there, I'll kind of build out the content and share it with the guys and say, hey, here's what I've been working on. What are your thoughts? What do you guys think about it? And then when we actually are performing or have our podcast, I'm usually kind of like a moderator, kind of leading the discussion that we'll have with the Men's Power Connect. And
Then what about the role spiritually?
Yes, thank you. So the role spiritually, and I know we'll get into this. So each of us kind of have different lanes, which I think is what makes what we do with the Men's Power Connect so powerful. So for Osei, as he mentioned, his is in the space of psychology. For Carlos, his is in the space of leadership. Myself, I've been an ordained minister before for years now. So my lane is really more so in the spiritual. While we all cross into the other spaces as well, I think what we bring in those individual roles really brings a lot of essence to what we do.
Wonderful.
With Men's Power Connect.
Osei, personally.
Yes. So my wife and I, Ebony, have been married for 18 years, and we share together 4 awesome children. My son is 16, my daughter is 10, and I have twin boys that are 7. So you can imagine how active and fun our household is, right? But it's been gratifying. I love being a father. I'm very family oriented, so that's just a part of me. That's how I'm wired. Introvert, so that makes it even better. So I'm at home with the family. I have a perfect day. All right. As Myron has mentioned, I work in the field of psychology. And as I already mentioned, I work in the field of psychology, mental health, and just have done things across the board. But being able to kind of use my experiences and my expertise on this platform has been gratifying as well, especially in this time, in this age, where I think mental health is actually really taking a positive turn, especially with recent events.
Come on.
It's good to see now, especially men coming and saying, you know what, this is tough. This is hard. This is challenging. I need some professional help. I need to get to the root of what's going on. And it could be something that they've never addressed in their life. It's always been suppressed. So being able to have this role has been really, really a good thing, just for men and just people across the board. So,
Great, wonderful. So I want to say for the Men's Power Connect, I want to get into some of the more deep questions, but I want to make sure that you all know I would love for you all to get your questions together, because I do want to open it up for questions at the end. So if they say something that sparks your heart, please write that down, because I definitely want to make sure that we answer those questions there. So let's get right into it here. Can you give us some type of examples of transformations or comments that you've received from the work that we've been doing over the last year? Because we've done several different podcast series, and we've spoken to several gentlemen. We've got a lot of comments. Is there anything that really stuck out to you on the transformative or results-oriented or testimonials that would be good to speak to? I'll start with you. Go ahead.
yeah, I would say, well, we had a live, I want to say this was probably a 3 months ago, maybe a few months ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer, yeah.
Okay. And it was great. It was great. It was really good to see some of the guys come on the live and ask questions and engage. I think for me, seeing that it's rare, and seeing how much of the gentlemen were so intrigued about, being a man that's engaging with his family, with his community, and showing that, hey, I'm a part of this too, and I would love to be able to come in this community, join you guys, and be able to kind of give my input, even if it's something that's not necessarily as transparent. Just the fact that they came on the platform, to me, says I have an awareness. And I think that's something that I've been longing for just in my career within mental health, is just seeing men come to the forefront and say, I'm not perfect. I bleed just like everyone else. You know, every now and again, I need to take this cape off my back.
Yeah.
You know, fold it up, put it in the drawer.
S on your chest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. And just to be able to be myself, be transparent, be vulnerable, and understand I'm not in this alone.
Got it.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that I really took out of, you know, just our time together within Men's Power Connect, within the live.
Good. Myron.
Yeah. I mean, I know we have a very perspicacious, you know, just assertiveness to what we do and how we bring this particular platform, you know, out to everyone who's watching. And it's been such a joy. And I think what I've really enjoyed most, I enjoyed the live as well. We've done a couple of different series, but there's one in particular where we did a dad series, and one of the episodes was Never Again Dads. And then we did also another one where we talked about legacy dads or graveyard dads and leaving a legacy for your sons and what that looks like, and really encouraging men to recognize the decisions that you make as a teenager, as a young adult, whatever it may be. And I think one of the terms that we used in this was, we talked about the runway. And so when you make a decision as a young person, that decision has consequences, whether they're good or bad. Mm-hmm. And when your decisions are good, you create a greater runway for success in your life, which is one of the things that we talked about in that particular episode. And I'm enjoying having fun with my brothers, really. We allow that to come out, and I think that's one of the things I enjoy most about this, is when we're on our platform, it's very organic. When we're having our conversations, we do have, we'll do pre-show meetings, we'll talk about our topics, but we get into a good flow. We allow the Holy Spirit to have his way when we're doing our podcast. And I will say, just as far as testimonials, so we talk about men, right? Men are not going to be in the comments like, oh man, that was so great. Like, you just,
so
what you said, that was me. Like, no. Men aren't going to do that, right? Yes. But what I have found is I've had conversations, when you have conversations with the women in the men's life, they will share how it's impacting them and different things like that. And then even with my nieces and nephews, some of the things that we've walked through, the Fathering Well series, I don't know if we'll get into that.
We're going to get into that.
Okay, perfect.
But
with the Fathering Well series that we've kind of walked through stages of fathering, when I've had a chance to share that, I mean, people's eyes just light up and say, wait a minute. So my son, and it's crazy. Every time we have that conversation and we tell somebody, say, okay, so my son is this old, so what stage would that put him in?
Right.
And I think the beauty of this, and we all have a great passion for being men, for being fathers, for being husbands. And what we're finding is the passion is there in other men too. Wow. They just sometimes don't know how to go about expressing it. And so this platform is really a help to allow men to say, hey, it's all right for me to talk about being a good father or about being a good husband, because I know that's taboo in the culture that we live in today.
So I would say, he talked about us doing pre-meetings to get prepared to do a podcast. So our podcast may last anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, and we'll break it up, thanks to Osei being our editor here. So our pre-meeting, guys, it may be 2 hours. We're talking and just talking and talking.
We laughing like 30 minutes in 2 hours. So yeah.
I said, can we start recording now? I'm sitting in the chair with my legs crossed, and they're getting the cameras together and all the other technical equipment, and we're just having this deep conversation just about men and fatherhood and all that. 2 hours to do like a 45-minute recording, which is wonderful, because I love that.
Yes.
So I would say, if you had to describe the state of men today, what would that look like based on all the work that we've done, the conversations that we had, the statistics that we've seen? How would you describe the state of men in the U.S. today?
Yeah, I would say, just from the work that we've done and the statistics that we've seen, I think a lot of men are in a space of loneliness, from my observation. We could be around thousands of people, but yet we still feel alone. We could be engaged with our family and, of course, at our jobs, but still feel a sense of loneliness, because there's a great level of responsibility that we have, especially as fathers and as spouses and, even to our families. Right?
So are you saying that we are longing for community?
Absolutely. Welcome to Men's Power Connect. Absolutely. And it's necessary. It's necessary. And I think that's why it's so important that we've come together and we are, for lack of a better term, pushing this platform because we are not alone. We are not alone. And I think that's kind of been my mantra, not only for myself, but also for other men, for them to understand that you're not on an island, even though you may feel like you are, just because of your circumstances or situations or experiences that you're going through. You are not alone. So how can we have you bite the bait to understand that is not the case? What you're thinking that you have to go through this by yourself is not the case. All right. So I think that's been really what I've observed, just with kind of the plight with
so
men.
The loneliness, and probably with some of the men that you actually see too.
Absolutely.
As a therapist, you're able to see that pattern come to life about where men are, no matter what stage of life they're in.
Right.
There's still this sense of loneliness that you are able to see.
Yeah, especially with men that are maybe, I'd say, within their 30s going in toward their 50s.
Wow.
Because again, the responsibility gets greater and greater, especially when you have children. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that.
Wonderful. Myron, what about you?
So
State of the men.
Yeah, so two verses in Scripture come to mind. One is, mark the perfect man and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. And then the other Scripture is, one can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight. And I think it ties into what Osei is saying, right? With this loneliness that men are experiencing, there's also this, and I'm trying to use the right word here, but there's also this sense of young men, especially a lot of young men in their 20s and 30s, and sadly even some men in their 40s and 50s, they're looking for authentic manhood. What does that look like in 2025?
You said authentic manhood.
Authentic. What does it look like to be an authentic man, right? Because if we pay attention to the culture, then authentic manhood is getting the bling, it's having money, it's having the women, and authentic manhood is embodied in the person of Jesus Christ, right? And so if that is the model that we're supposed to mark to be perfect, and not perfect in the sense of you don't sin, but perfect in the sense of growing in maturity. So if I'm looking to grow in maturity as a man, I need authentic men that I can look and say, oh, that's somebody I can mark, that's somebody I can follow, and there's a lack of that in 2025. And I think a lot of it is because of loneliness. I think it's also because, again, as I joked about earlier, but seriously, men, we don't always know how to say, hey, man, I'm hurt. Mm-hmm. Man, I want to quit.
Come on.
We don't know how to say, hey, I almost walked out on her last night. I know men don't have those conversations. Yes, they do. Unfortunately, we have them internally. Mm-hmm. And we don't express them.
Come on.
So what ends up happening for a lot of men, they don't desire to cheat. They don't desire to walk out on their family, but they don't know what to do with the pressure that you talked about that's building up inside of them. So what do I do with this pressure? How do I get it out? How do I let it out? And we say this all the time. I don't care how old you are. Every man needs another man.
Yes.
Every man needs, I don't care how old you are, you need another man that you can go to and say, hey, man, look, we've done this with each other over the years many times. Hey, man, we need to talk. What's up? We just need to talk. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to talk about some of those? No, we don't have to.
No, we're not.
I'm joking.
No.
But
what stays in the man cave goes on in the man cave.
But
stays in the man cave.
Here's one thing that I would like to say. You talked about those things when he said, the man said, I just want to quit. I want to give up. I almost walked out. But also, men need to hear, I love you.
Yes.
Hug you. And just have that kind of iron sharpening iron coming up against to say, hey, I'm here for you. Speak to that.
So oftentimes whenever I go out, if I'm out to dinner or something like that, whenever I see a young father, and it doesn't always have to be a young father, but especially if it's a young father of color, and he's got his kids there with him, I always will walk up to him and find a way to maybe crack a joke or something like that. Because again, this is a man. So if I walk up on him and his family, first thing he's thinking is who is this dude walking up on me and my family? Right. So let me smooth that out first. All right. with a joke. And then after I smooth that out, as we're having conversation, I'll just say, hey, man, I know this. I just want to say I'm proud of you for being a dad, for being a father, for being there. Now, again, because we're dealing with men, it's very difficult to track our impact because they're not going to say, man, you just don't know how much I need to hear that. But he's thinking, man, you just don't know how much I need to hear that. Exactly. Right? Because as a man, when I think about whenever another man has said to me, when my dad says to me, you know, hey, son, with you, I watch you and your wife and you with your kids, and we're so proud of you. I'm just like, thank you, Dad. Like, it does it for me.
Yes.
And so I think that is important for other men to hear, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're doing a great job. Because, again, talking about the responsibility of a man, we just put our head down.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're trying to figure out, okay, got to do this for the family, got to do this for work, got to do this for the kids. We're thinking about what we need to do, and it's very rare that we take time to celebrate the small wins.
But we will always put ourselves on the back burner anyway, especially if we have
no
family.
doubt. Sure. No doubt.
Right, we won't take the vacations, we won't make sure that we are getting the self-care that we need as well in that.
And
so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think unfortunately with that, we then suppress, we keep a lot of that stuff in, and just like a volcano, if there's no valve, eventually you're going to what? Erupt. And it's just the smallest things sometimes. It's just that one straw that will take you over the edge. And as we know with the volcano, once it erupts, that lava gets all over and it becomes destructive, not only to ourselves, but to our families and those around us. So it's important to, first of all, acknowledge the fact that we've got some built-up stuff that we need to address. Yeah. Let's do the acknowledgement first.
Wow.
And then, hey, let's create an opportunity and a platform to be able to release that valve, whether it be going out with, you know, some fellas or self-care or that sort of thing. We don't want to implode.
I like that. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far, the conversation. I've got one more question. Just give me like your 30-second overview of this question because I want to move into fatherhood and what that looks like. So why is this work so hard? The work that we're doing with Men's Power Connect, what makes it challenging? What makes it hard?
I mean, we've kind of already covered it. The men are very, what was Shrek saying? Like onions, right?
Yes!
That was the saying? So
yes.
Men have a lot of layers, and we're not
right.
so apt to allow you to touch the layers because they're sensitive, because I'm a man, and you don't need to know what's going on in my life. So I think that's what we're battling, is trying to break through men saying, it's okay for me to allow my guard down just a little bit so that I can be healed. It's not allow my guard down so someone can take advantage of you, but that's where the authentic manhood comes from. Because we don't have a lot of authentic men. We have men who have taken advantage of other men, and as a result, most men are more hesitant to allow you in because they know you have an agenda. I don't. I really want to see you thrive as a husband, as a father, and as a leader in your community. And anything that I can do, that's always been my mantra throughout my adulthood, and I will continue that.
Okay, wonderful then. I want to get into this next section because I want to make sure we have enough time to address it, and that's fatherhood. There's a series that we've created called The 5 Stages of Fathering Well. And Osei, if you don't mind walking us through those stages, and I'd love for you to pepper in some comments as well on the 5 stages of fathering well.
Okay, so the 5 stages of fathering well. The first stage is the covering stage, and that's the stage where you find out that you're getting ready to be a father, and your spouse or whoever it is that has been impregnated, you're covering them, praying over them, making sure that they're safe and able to get through the process of pregnancy, that sort of thing well. So that's the covering stage. The next is the conducting stage.
Yes.
The conducting stage typically happens between toddler age up through elementary school. I want to say that's
in middle school, yeah.
In middle school, yes. And so the conducting stage is an opportunity for you to, as a father, to really inform, teach, demonstrate what it is to look like becoming a young man, growing up as a young man, the responsibilities that come with it, right? So that's the so covering, conducting, then we have the consulting stage. The consulting stage typically happens
But
between
that's the coaching stage.
coaching
Yeah, coaching
stage.
stage.
Coaching
Thank
stage
you.
is next.
The coaching stage. So the coaching stage happens between the middle school and high school years, right? Right before college, or if you're going to go military,
Right.
or have a trade. But before that time, coaching is the responsibility of a father, just to do that. Coach, show them the playbook. These are the things that we are doing to try to meet this goal, and we want to help you to play it out, right? Of course, you add more to that. And then after that, after the coaching stage, we have the consulting stage.
Correct.
Yeah, and the consulting stage happens after high school, going through college.
Yes,
right.
that's correct.
And so you're there to pretty much guide, not necessarily instruct, but to be more of that. Well, how would you say it? Not necessarily safeguard, but kind of helping them
To navigate.
through manhood.
Through those
Right. So that's the consulting stage. And then after that is the confidant stage.
Yes.
The confidant stage is a very good stage, right?
love
he
them
loves
being
the
in the
confidant
confidant stage.
Yeah, so the confidant stage is where you as a father kind of step back and watch your son as a man growing into his own, whether it be with fatherhood, whether it be as a leader, and just being with him, iron sharpening iron, as
Yes,
we put it,
yes.
in that phase, and watching him grow and being proud of what you've done.
That's good.
Yeah.
All
And I would just say, I mean, when you think about those 5 stages, each of the words is really a play on the stage, right? So like I say, you're covering them, you're praying for them. And I love conducting, coaching, but it's like as we continue to work on these stages and develop them further, you start to like each
Yeah.
one of them even more.
Yeah.
But with the conducting, you really think about an orchestra, right, or a train conductor. And as a father, it's my responsibility in those elementary and middle school years to make sure that I'm getting them from one place to the next place safe. And not just in a sense of safe of walking them to school, but understanding psychological safety and different things like that. The coaching stage, you think about the analogy of a coach. And one thing about a coach or a player on a team, they never have one coach. There's always multiple coaches, right? So that's another thing that we need as men. We need other men to help us in raising our sons because it's critical to have that village.
Gotcha. And then I've got 2 sons that's actually one that's in the consulting stage and one that's in the confidant stage. That means that he can take care of himself.
Independent.
Without me. Okay. That's what that means. So right now, as we close this, I would love to open it up for any questions that we have at this point. Anyway. Yes, Adam.
I know it takes courage to open up as a man after being raised in a culture that kind of encourages toxic masculinity and pushes down male vulnerability. What would each of you say is the most defining moment in your life that encouraged you to push out of this barrier or burst out of this hard shell of toxic masculinity?
I think you're trying to get us emotional, man.
That's great. What would that be for you?
That's a very, very good question. So I would say watching my father, and my father was not in my household. It was just my mother and I and my younger brother. And so now that I'm older, my father and I, we have a really, really good relationship. And what I remember my father being when I was younger was that man's man. He was tough. He was rough around the edges. And there wasn't much that he would say about mental health, especially during that time when I was a child, right? Mental health just was not a thing. Now, fast forwarding, he's a lot more vulnerable. He actually shares with me some of his challenges that he experiences. And so for me, first of all, I'm like, wow, miracles are real. And then also just to be able to see my father express himself to me, it really gives me permission to be able to just let my guard down. And I tell people all the time, just because I'm on this side as a therapist doesn't mean that I don't have my stuff too. I do therapy as well. I need that. And so just to see him, my father, once being this man that was the toughest of the toughest, now has expressed himself in such a vulnerable manner has been so gratifying for me. So I think that's probably the primary, as well as other things, but primarily that's what comes to mind.
Myron.
For me, I would say my father as well. He was definitely that man's man, and he really, would not push, but he was a great model, right? Like I talked about before. And then the other I would say is just coming to faith was a really big thing for me. And then when we were a part of a ministry that Osei and I were part of together, there was a group of really strong men that were vulnerable. I saw them cry. I saw them laugh. I saw them express all of those emotions. And these are not, I'm not a huge guy, but, I think about like my brother, Pastor Miller. I think about Vaughn Jameson, these guys who were men's men who really expressed manhood in a way that I had not really seen before. And that was something that I really gravitated towards.
Go ahead. Wonderful. So I wish we had more time for other questions, but I want to wrap this conversation up. One is that people that are in here should have gotten a piece of paper on there. And I just want to call out a number, 7. Who has number 7? You have number 7? Well, I don't know. I don't know how I had number 7. And then who had number 12? Anybody got 12?
They
What
check it
about
now.
17? It's
She has
12. Okay, so let's do another one. What about 17? You got 17. I'm not going to do you. So number 6. And is that 6? 3. You got 3. Wonderful. Well, I actually brought 2 gifts for you guys that I want to give you from the Men's Power Connect here. And Adam, you can come up and get them. One of them is a journal, and one of them is the portrait of a father that I want to give it. Thank you. Good job. I hope you guys have enjoyed our conversation tonight. Really appreciate your engagement. You can find out more about Men's Power Connect on the Men's Power Connect on YouTube as well as Facebook. So we drop an episode every Monday, so you'll be able to see that. And then at the end of every show, we always say, what? Go out and encourage another brother. Thank you.